Good evening there, everybody. What is happening? Hopefully, y'all are having a wonderful day today. So, I thought that I would do a little fight review of this fight specifically that happened on the UFC 256 card because this was probably debatably the biggest card on the UFC 256 card and also the most surprising. Um, you know, I was actually making a list so that maybe I can make a interesting video of 50-50 matchups in the UFC to where they looked like 50-50 matchups at first and then they ended up being dominant performances by one of the sides. This you could count as one of those fights. Now, Tony Ferguson going in, he may have even been a 70-30 favorite. But when you take a look at the odds last night, he was about a 60-40 favorite probably. And that probably would have been around the right area because Charles Oliveira, very decent contender. He's always been a decent contender, but it seems like whatever he's done as of late, whatever he's changed, if he's changed his corner or what, worked on his skill set, which he most certainly has. Charles Oliveira is a very different fighter now than what I seen a couple of years ago. Charles Oliveira, will not lose a lot of his big fights. This guy is a threat to anyone at the 155-pound division, and I mean anyone when it comes down to it overall. Oliveira is a very talented grappler. He always has been, but it looks like he even improved on his grappling, and his striking and movement is even better, which is something that you don't usually see improve in fighters, especially ones that focus mainly on grappling. So I have to say, Oliveira, you have to be somewhat proud of him and what he's done within the past couple of years because he really has improved his game. So good on him. But the reason why I also decided to do a review of this fight was because I knew a lot of people were going to come out and say that, oh, well, Tony Ferguson, he's done, man. He's too old and all this other stuff. I knew people were going to come out with that straight out the bat. Listen, do I think Tony Ferguson is too old? No. Do I think he was ever going to be the same after that Justin Gaethje loss? No. I'm not saying Tony Ferguson is done. I don't think that's fair to say. But when it comes down to it overall, Tony certainly is never going to have that same piece of him ever again after he lost to Justin Gaethje. He got dominated against Justin Gaethje, and he got dominated against Oliveira, but let's give Oliveira credit. This Charles Oliveira that I see could possibly defeat anyone in the division. That means possibly Conor McGregor. That means possibly Dustin Poirier, possibly Justin Gaethje. And if Khabib Nurmagomedov is not careful, possibly Khabib Nurmagomedov. Now, of course, I would probably favor Khabib over Charles Oliveira. But this is probably the best Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner in the 155-pound division in quite a while. Charles Oliveira is an excellent grappler. Now, of course, a lot of people are going to say, well, he's gotten beat before, and even submitted before. He got submitted against Anthony Pettis. That is true, but that was a few years ago. When you take a look at Charles Oliveira right now, he probably would submit Anthony Pettis when we take a look at it. Charles Oliveira is very clearly a different fighter today than he was a couple of years ago, and I'm not necessarily sure what exactly he changed, but when it comes down to it, he is a complete nightmare to fight right now. Him versus Dustin Poirier, 50-50 fight. Him versus Justin Gaethje, 50-50 fight. Him versus even Conor McGregor, who I find to be a level above those two. I'm not sure who would possibly win that fight, because even though Conor is a very great fighter, if Oliveira were to get him to the ground, and personally I don't think Conor's ground game is nearly as bad as people say it is, but Oliveira's ground game is on another level. You're looking at the best Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner in that whole entire division right now, which is, so a lot of people might have thought that even years ago with Oliveira, but it looked like it has even improved, which is so interesting for me to see also that his striking has improved the way that it has. He is more swifter in the ring. He moves better in the ring. His defense is better in the ring. And I thought Tony Ferguson was going to be able to outstrike him because, I thought that maybe Oliveira would not be able to take him down because Tony, from what I've seen, very good ground game as well, very good off his back. And I thought that both of them would have, an equal chance on the ground. I was way wrong. Charles Oliveira dominated him on the ground. Dominated him on the ground, and it wasn't even close. He picked him up in every single round, and he slammed him to the ground, and he kept him there, and he nearly broke his arm in the first round. Charles Oliveira is a monster, and I never thought I would see the day where he would start to win his bigger fights, especially on the caliber of someone like a Tony Ferguson. But that day has finally come, and I'm very glad for Charles because once upon a time, I was rooting for him, and sometimes those fighters that you root for that always lose their big fights, that day will never come where they win the bigger fights. Charles Oliveira is finally at that point. Last time he won against Kevin Lee, that was the biggest win of his career last time, and I'm sure a lot of people say, oh, well, Kevin Lee was on the downslope. Well, Kevin Lee, a very good fighter, but a lot of his flaws got exposed, but that is a very decent win. This is an A-class win. This is a very great win. I know a lot of people are going to say Tony Ferguson was old and all that stuff. Well, the thing is about Tony is this. We have to give Charles Oliveira credit. This is an A-class win. Tony Ferguson still was within, the top 5. And when it came down to the overall, Tony just got beat by really the more skilled man. And a lot of people overall may not agree with that. But Tony Ferguson also is not without his flaws. And obviously he does not have a very, A-class ground game because Oliveira completely dominated him. Or that's, maybe you can say that he has an A-class ground game. But if he has a A ground game, like an A- ground game, Oliveira has an A+ ground game. I mean, it was ridiculous the way that he dominated him last night, and Tony really could not do anything about it. He was helpless, and that's really what was so impressive. He dominated him 3-0. The fight was not even close. Now, in terms of overall what is next for Mr. Tony Ferguson, we'll see what happens. It'll be very interesting, but I'm trying to think of some of the guys that are in there. I can't remember some of the guys that are in the lower part of 155, but maybe a fight against Dan Hooker or something next. That would be a very good fight. I would love to see that fight if Tony Ferguson can face him next. That'd be an interesting fight, and if Tony can't win that fight, he might want to start thinking about hanging him up. So we'll see what happens. As for Oliveira, the doors and windows are really wide open for him now. When it comes down to it, he very possibly could get a title shot against Khabib Nurmagomedov if Khabib decides to come back. He could get a shot against Justin Gaethje, Dustin Poirier, Conor McGregor, the winner or the loser of Dustin Poirier versus Conor McGregor. He really could get almost any fight that he wants coming up next. So we'll see what happens. Dana White already said that the winner of Tony versus Charles Oliveira could get a title shot. Now, the reason why I thought he said that was because he still wants that Tony Ferguson versus Khabib Nurmagomedov fight to happen because that's going to earn him a lot of money. Unfortunately, that fight just didn't seem like it was meant to be. And that fight most likely is never going to happen now. And really, there's no good reason for it to happen anymore because Tony, overall, he's not a top 5 guy anymore. Now you have, you have not only Khabib as the champion, but you have Conor, you have Dustin, you have Gaethje, now you have Charles Oliveira. Now, maybe you could argue Tony Ferguson still is a top 5 guy, but you still have guys like Dan Hooker in that division, and there's a couple of others that are very dangerous as well. So we'll see what Tony Ferguson does next. I would love to see him fight Dan Hooker or something like that. But anyway, that's really about it for that. I just thought that I would comment on that. Very good performance by Charles Oliveira. A lot of excuses I see running through the air. Got to give the man credit for his performance. Charles is on another level, on another couple levels or few levels than he was a couple years ago. I'm very impressed with the vast improvements that he has made in his fight game. And he now has 30 wins in his MMA career, so congratulations to him. We'll see what happens to the man next. Very interesting to see what happens. And let me tell you something. Khabib Nurmagomedov is probably the best ground and pound guy that I've personally ever seen, especially when it comes to wrestling. But even if Khabib is going to face Oliveira, he better be very careful with Oliveira on the ground. Oliveira is a master when it comes to on the ground game. The best Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner in the game right now at 155. So when it comes down to you can argue right now that when it comes to prime fighters, Oliveira is the best Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner in the world right now in the UFC roster. You can make a legitimate argument about that. But when it comes down to the overall bottom line is this. Um, Even if Habib were to face Charles Oliveira next, you better be careful because Oliveira is very wiry. He is very good on the ground. He can get you from almost anywhere. Charles Oliveira is the real deal. Now, once again, I would favor Habib, but he better have a great amount of respect for Charles Oliveira's ground game and also his striking. His striking does not appear to be as bad as it once was. He does not appear to be as straightforward and as one dimensional with his striking as he used to be. So you have to give Charles Oliveira a lot of credit. But anyway, that's really about it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Tell me what y'all thought on the fight. Thought it was a very impressive performance by Charles Oliveira. And that's really about it for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to y'all later.